All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're decoding the highly calculated political pressure currently surrounding Turkey's main opposition party, the CHP. We're looking directly at the mechanics of political containment, and specifically, we'll be uncovering the really intricate strategies of President Erdoğan's administration. This is a fascinating dive into how modern political power is maintained, not just by winning over voters, but by actively and meticulously managing the opposition.
Now, it's kind of a paradox, right? Our natural assumption is that in politics, the ultimate goal is the complete and total elimination of your opponent. I mean, if you have the power to destroy a major rival, you use it. But the strategy we're unpacking from our source material today suggests something completely counterintuitive. It argues that keeping an enemy alive but perpetually wounded is actually way more useful than destroying them. It's essentially a Machiavellian chess match where the whole objective is to corner the king, but never actually call checkmate.
So here is our roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the immediate political storm, look at why outright destruction actually backfires, dive into the discredit strategy, unpack this idea of a political fog machine, and finally, connects it all to the ultimate endgame, succession.
Okay, let's kick things off with the chaos we're seeing right now on the surface. Look at the sheer volume of pressure the CHP is facing right now. It looks exactly like a dramatic prelude to the party's total destruction. We're talking intense, coordinated investigations in the CHP municipalities, high-profile corruption allegations, and highly publicized mayoral defections over to the ruling AKP. There are even renewed, totally serious debates about shutting the party down entirely or literally annulling their party congress. Now, to be clear, serious allegations absolutely warrant legal scrutiny. No party is above the law. But the volume, the precise timing, and the highly public nature of all these events hitting at once, it heavily suggests a much broader, orchestrated strategy is at play.
Which brings us right to that paradox of destruction I mentioned earlier. Why not just finish them off?
Well, from the ruling party's perspective, a destroyed CHP actually creates a massive, dangerous vacuum. Closing the party could accidentally create a political martyr. It would instantly energize anti-AKP voters and essentially force entirely separate opposition groups to finally unite out of pure necessity. But a wounded CHP, one that stays intact but is just constantly bogged down in legal battles and scandals, that acts like a perfect sponge. It absorbs all that opposition anger without ever gaining the momentum to actually take power. Plus, it remains historically loaded, weighed down by decades of ideological baggage, which makes it a really familiar, easily controllable opponent.
Because here's the absolute biggest fear for the ruling party: a fresh, clean slate, center-right movement. An entirely new movement wouldn't carry the CHP's historical baggage. And without that baggage, it becomes incredibly difficult for the ruling party to demonize them to their conservative base. Think about it. A clean slate movement could simultaneously attract conservatives, nationalists, liberals, Kurdish voters, and profoundly disillusioned AKP voters all at the same time. By keeping the wounded CHP in place as the permanent main opposition, it effectively blocks that highly dangerous new movement from ever taking root.
So let's look at the core strategy driving all of this.
The source material boils it down to one brilliantly simple yet devastatingly effective phrase: discredit, don't destroy. The goal isn't to outright close the party or forcefully remove its leadership. Nope. The objective is to permanently associate the CHP with scandal, internal chaos, incompetence, and deep, deep public doubt. Keep the party alive just enough to physically occupy the space of the main opposition, but keep it so perpetually damaged that it struggles to ever present itself as a trustworthy alternative. It's literally a masterclass in containment over elimination.
And you know, this containment strategy is extraordinarily powerful because of what it distracts us from. Turkey is facing severe national crises right now: skyrocketing inflation, deep poverty, severe housing shortages. But by keeping the CHP constantly defending itself against the latest threat or internal scandal, the government successfully controls the national agenda. Instead of the government having to answer for a struggling economy, the news cycle is just totally dominated by CHP defections and closure debates. It really comes down to this. A strong opposition speaks about the future of the country, but a weakened opposition is forced to speak only about its own survival.
So how exactly do you keep an opponent perpetually on the defensive? Well, you use a political fog machine. The administration achieves this through relentless perception warfare. While legitimate corruption claims demand real legal investigation, perception warfare intentionally blends those factual claims with unverified, highly personal rumors. The objective isn't necessarily justice, it's humiliation.
The government doesn't actually need to prove every single claim in a court of law to get a political win. They just need to pump enough smoke, confusion, and scandal into the atmosphere to make voters hesitate and doubt absolutely everything.
It's a really crucial distinction we have to make here between justice and perception warfare, because the target of this campaign isn't the courtroom, it's the voter's mind. Justice meticulously seeks evidence and asks, did a crime actually occur? Perception warfare asks a totally different question. How much political damage can we produce today? It intentionally mixes financial corruption allegations with private life insinuations. Together, they create an overwhelming atmosphere where the law and pure political propaganda become totally indistinguishable from one another.
And to make this fog machine really work, you need visuals. Defections act as highly publicized visual symbols. Cases involving mayors jumping ship are presented to the public not just as routine local shifts, but as psychological ammunition. When a former CHP figure stands on national television to receive an APAP badge, that is carefully choreographed political theater. It broadcasts a message that even the CHP's own leaders are abandoning ship, creating this incredibly powerful, demoralizing illusion that the opposition is just crumbling from within.
The psychological angle here is just fascinating. The ultimate goal isn't necessarily to make voters love the ruling party. The goal is simply to exhaust them, make them so cynical about all politicians that they firmly believe everyone is dirty and all political parties are exactly the same. And when voters reach that level of absolute apathy, they just stay home. For an incumbent government facing massive economic fatigue, voter cynicism and low turnout can honestly be just as useful as voter enthusiasm in securing the status quo.
All right, let's zoom out. What is the actual long-term goal here?
This entire strategy of containment isn't just about winning the very next election cycle, it's about systematically engineering what comes after. It's a calculated succession plan. Step 1, keep the opposition landscape weak and highly fragmented. Step 2, ensure the main opposition is permanently viewed as chaotic and hopelessly corrupt. Step 3, manage a smooth, uninterrupted power transition. Whether the future involves family figures or another loyal political heir, a discredited and exhausted CHP guarantees there is no united, credible alternative to block that succession project.
So, we've seen how keeping a rival perpetually wounded is strategically brilliant for maintaining immediate power and securing a long-term succession. But it leaves us with a pretty heavy question to consider about the true cost of this perception warfare on the public. If the public square becomes entirely defined by exhaustion, scandal, and the deep-seated belief that no true alternative exists, does that purest cynicism ultimately destroy the long-term health of a nation's democracy? It's a profound thought, and one that really lingers long after the political fog finally clears.